The entire kingdom froze the moment the village girl spoke. The prince had just knelt before her, with gold, power, and the full blessing of the king. Everyone expected tears, joy, celebration. Instead, she stepped back and said calmly, "I cannot marry you." Silence swallowed the palace courtyard. Even the drums stopped mid-beat, because no one in history had ever rejected Prince Adeyemi. But what shocked everyone more was not the rejection. It was the look in her eyes. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't proud. She was warning him. And when the prince asked why, she whispered a sentence that would later shake the entire kingdom. "Because if I marry you, everything you love will start to die." And that was when the curse began to show itself. Before that moment, the kingdom of Irioba believed it was blessed. Peaceful land, strong palace, a prince every woman dreamed of. Prince Adeyemi was loved by all, respected, kind, and chosen by fate itself. But inside the palace, something was wrong. He kept refusing marriage proposals. No one understood why, until the day he went to the village. That was where he saw her, Amara, a quiet village girl who never begged for attention but somehow controlled it without trying. She helped people without speaking much. She looked at power like it was something fragile, not something to admire, and that confused the prince. Because everyone he met either feared him or praised him. But Amara did neither. She simply existed, calm, unmoved, unreachable. The prince began returning to the village often. At first, it was curiosity. Then, it became obsession. Then something deeper he could not explain. But Amara never acted impressed, never chased him, never smiled too easily. One day, he asked her directly, "Do you know who I am?" She replied, "Yes. That is why I do not trust this." But it only pulled him closer, because mystery is dangerous to powerful men. And Amara was full of it. What the prince didn't know was this: every time Amara looked at him, she wasn't seeing love. She was seeing danger. Something she refused to speak about, something tied to her bloodline, something she was trying to hide from him. But it was already too late, because the connection had begun. And some connections wake things that should never wake. The prince made his decision suddenly. I will marry her. The palace celebrated immediately. The kingdom rejoiced. But Amara did not. When she heard the news, she went silent for a long time, too long. Then she said, "He should not have chosen me." Her grandmother was shocked. "Do you know what this means? Your life will change forever." Amara replied softly, "That is what I fear." Meanwhile, in the palace, strange things began. The prince started dreaming, not normal dreams, but visions. In every dream, Amara stood near water, calling his name. But every time he tried to reach her, she disappeared. When he told her, she went pale for the first time. "Stop talking about your dreams," she said quickly. That was the first crack in the story, because fear had entered her voice. Then the village animals started behaving strangely. Dogs refused to bark near Amara. Crows gathered above her house. And the river near the village began to flow backwards for a few seconds every night. No one understood it, but Amara did. And she began visiting the river alone. Long hours, silent prayers, like she was negotiating with something unseen. The prince noticed her distance. "Are you hiding something from me?" he asked one evening. Amara looked at him for a long time, then said, I am trying to protect you from me. That sentence changed everything, because now it was no longer romance. It was survival. The wedding preparations began, but Amara stopped smiling completely. She went to the prince. I cannot marry you. The prince laughed softly. Is this fear or doubt? It is warning. But the prince refused to listen, because power makes people overconfident, and love makes them blind. He believed she would change her mind. She did not. 3 nights before the wedding, she disappeared from her house. The prince found her at the river, standing still, like she was waiting for something inside the water. What are you doing? He asked. Amara did not turn. It is waking, she said. Who is waking? She finally faced him. The thing inside my bloodline. The prince stepped closer. I don't believe in curses. That was his biggest mistake. Because the river responded. The water suddenly rose, even without rain, and Amara whispered, then you will learn the hard way. After that night, the palace began collapsing slowly. Not physically at first, but emotionally. People argued more. Trust disappeared. The prince began losing sleep. He saw shadows of Amara everywhere, even when she wasn't there. Then the harvest failed. The river near the palace turned dark for one night, and every mirror in the palace cracked at the same time. That was when fear finally entered the king's heart. But the prince still refused to stop the wedding. He believed love could fix it. Amara knew better. She told him, you are not fighting me. You are fighting what follows me. But he held her hands and said, then let it follow. I will still choose you. That sentence broke something inside her because it was sincere, and sincerity makes curses react faster. The village began hearing whispers at night. People said they heard Amara's voice calling from the river, but she was always asleep in her home. Reality was splitting, and the wedding day was approaching like a storm. The wedding day arrived, but the sky was wrong. No birds, no wind, no sound, just silence. Amara walked into the palace courtyard, but she was not dressed like a bride. The prince rushed to her. Why are you doing this? She replied, because I finally understand it. Understand what? She looked at him. The curse does not destroy love immediately. It destroys everything around it first. The ground shook slightly. The river outside the palace began rising again, and Amara stepped backward. This is where it ends, she said. The prince grabbed her hand. No, it ends with us together. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I wish that was true. And then she made her choice. She walked away from him, straight into the river's direction, and as she did, the water rose like it was alive and swallowed her completely. No scream, no struggle, just silence. And then, calm, too calm. After that day, everything stopped collapsing. The palace stabilized. The curse effects disappeared. Life returned to normal. But the prince never recovered. He waited by the river every night, calling her name softly, but she never returned. Some say she became part of the river. Some say she broke the curse by sacrificing herself. But the truth the kingdom never forgot was this. She didn't refuse him because she didn't love him. She refused him because she loved him enough to stop destruction. And the prince finally understood, too late, sometimes the deepest love is the one that walks away, because staying would destroy everything. The end.